Hello, nice to have you here today to talk about the metaverse, NFTs, and the Sandbox game. So we're happy today to have three experts on the metaverse universe. So can you please introduce yourselves?
Hey, my name is Mo. I head community and education at Ledger. I don't know if some of you guys might be familiar with Ledger. Raise your hand if you know what Ledger is. Okay, cool. So we basically create solutions for people to be able to own and secure their digital assets. So that is mainly for individuals, but also for enterprises. And the whole Ledger ecosystem is based around the fact that as an individual, you should be able to own digital things without having to rely on a third party. So digital things, it can be value, Bitcoin, Ethereum, other cryptocurrencies, could also be NFTs. It's also your identity, or your access to the land on the Sandbox, ability to build experiences there, etc. So yeah, I mean, we've definitely been exploring the different opportunities within the space that would enable us to create stories, build relationships with communities, and launch initiatives, and the metaverse is one of them, because it enables us to multiply the touch points that we have. Most brands today, they communicate and they do marketing using Web 2 channels and touch points, social media, content creation, and so on and so forth. But today, there are a variety of different Web 3 touch points that are also available to brands for them to keep doing their marketing the way they do. We always used to say 360 marketing, so now you add into your 360 marketing toolkit, plus all the things that they've probably taught you here at school, creating an experience in a metaverse, or gaming experience in a more general sense, right? Like when you look what's happening on like Fortnite and Roblox, well, Sandbox is the Web3 version of that, and we've done a couple of experiments. Happy to talk about them tonight.
Thank you. Remy, do you want to present yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, thanks for having us tonight. My role is to lead the neighborhoods and the maps of the Sandbox. So, we have this big map with 166,000 lands overall. How do we structure them? Because we already deploy 75%. So it still means that we have 25% to be launched. How do we structure those sales? How we deploy the neighborhoods? And basically what you need to understand is that how we launched is not how we are currently launching as well. We are one of the few NFT projects that launched their tokens by waves. So we haven't released everything at once. So what happened is that we released the first wave and the second wave and the third and so on and so on. And now we have, I think, 125,000-ish lands represented by 25,000 landowners as well in the world. So I believe that it's one of the largest and most diverse NFT community in the world. What's very interesting is that we have 16,000 people owning only one single piece of land, which is pretty cool. And when we launched initially, it was a very opportunistic manner. We had partners, we deployed them on the map, creating neighborhoods. But we dig deeper and we thought, okay, maybe what happens on YouTube, for example, is that you create network effects. You start watching a video on YouTube and you end up, I don't know, 2 hours later watching a cat jumping or whatever. The algorithm made you stay for 2 hours and you watch content all the way. For us, it's a bit the same. We believe that you enter the neighborhood because you know a big brand and you want to play their experience. But then you will stay because when you enter the music neighborhood, you will always find music experiences around. And so it will gravitate around this music theme. And if you want to go to the sports area, you will go to the sports area, and to the movie area, and then so it keeps proposing new content all the time, linked to a certain theme. So we have this with teams, but we also have the same approach with local countries. So right now, Sandbox has 12 offices, something like that. And Asia is a very big focus. But for each country we launch, we have country managers handling business locally. So we have land sales dedicated to Korea, Thailand, Turkey, Japan, and so on and so on. So it's very important that these change over time. And this is the current state of how we do land sales. And that's what I do.
Okay, nice. So Cédric, you can present yourself too.
Yeah, my name is Cédric Bensoussan. I'm co-founder of Interactive Studio. And we created 3 years ago, 2 years and a half now, Metaverse Studio that is focused, it's a part of the agency focused on creating Metaverse experiences. So Sandbox is one of our favorite playground, but we love to play on Fortnite, and we do a lot of things on spatial, maybe you know this Metaverse, and we work with Meta too, and we work on VR, on some other experiences.
So I'm hearing you, and I have one first question. I want to know if the metaverse is like creating like a virtual twin of the real world, or is it like the future of video game? When I say the future of video game, is it something with rules and you can earn, for example, reward or reach out to some levels, etc.? Or is it really about a virtual lifestyle where you can find all the basic usage you have in the real life, and you can do it also in the virtual life? Because we talk about brand, we talk about countries, and we talk about things that we already know in the real life. So what is the aim of the metaverse, and how do you see it in the Sandbox?
So on my end, and that's my very personal approach, but I feel like metaverse is the collision of worlds. So that's basically how I perceive the concept. It's how you create one area where you can roam around, playing and mixing every concept between each other. So playing with a Smurf on a Walking Dead land, fighting zombies with a weapon coming from I don't know where. But basically mixing IPs, mixing worlds that will create any experience it could be. And so it relates to your point. When you ask me what can be done, do we want to replicate the real world? I would say it's more about you can replicate the real world, but is it the best use of it? Like replicating a museum, to me, it's not optimizing Sandbox as well. And also, when we talk about the metaverse, there are a lot of different softwares being metaverses. We are all doing things differently. So probably that Decentraland, Meta, Fortnite, Sandbox will be optimized for certain usage. So I would recommend you to have probably a 360 approach, but on different metaverses, so you can cover and optimize your approach on the strength of each of them. So for example, for us, it's about Web3, it's about gaming. So I would say that if you just do a passive museum experience, you probably can do something very similar in Decentraland or elsewhere, which means that you're probably missing something. And how could you maybe modify, tweak a bit every bits of each experience to make it very custom to each of them?
Okay, that is very clear. So Mo, maybe I have another question for you because it was really complete. I would like to know what are the reasons why one would like to buy a land in a metaverse. I mean, is there a real value in it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it actually will get me to kind of riff a little bit on your initial question, which is about, are we, you know, actually trying to replicate the real world or not? Like, even the concept of a land, what is a land in a digital world? Why is it 2x2, 3x3, 4x4? It's an interesting piece. Like, I think skeuomorphism, who knows what skeuomorphism is? No? It's basically when you design something in the digital world, but you take characteristics from the physical world to describe it so that people can understand it. Why does your calculator on your iPhone look like a calculator? It could have looked like anything else. Like, the form factor of a calculator doesn't need to exist in that digital screen the way it does. You see it across the way with a variety of different things that were ported from the physical world to the digital world. The flashlight on your phone is kind of the same thing. All of the application icons, actually, they look like the physical thing, but they could have been like your application, you know, the flashlight application on your mobile phone could have looked like something completely, could have looked like a moon, for instance. You see where I'm getting at with this. So the idea of a land in a digital world, it's for people to understand that they have a conceivable space in which they should be creating an experience. So land on the Sandbox is scarce. Digital servers across the world are not. Same thing with land in the physical world. You have land in Paris is scarce. Land across the world is not. You have a lot of deserts. You have a lot of mountains. Why don't any of us live in the mountain or in the desert? Well, you don't have infrastructure. There's no one you can hang out with. And it's probably pretty boring, and you're gonna die probably in a few hours. So what I'm trying to get at is that the concept of land in the metaverse is a way to onboard people and enable them to understand the use case of that land. But ultimately, what really matters is the content, because the content is what will attract people to the land. Kind of like Paris as a city. It's the content within Paris that attracts people to live in Paris, rather than, I don't know, go live in Nord-Pas-de-Calais, for instance. You don't have the same culture, you don't have the same movement around the city, you're not going to have the same things to do, you're not going to meet the same people. So that's why Sandbox is really focusing on attracting big brands and working with big companies, because they understand that any other metaverse can just go and print 500,000 lands, but if there is no usage, there's no user base, no good content on these lands, no one's going to go to them. So skeuomorphism enables us to enable people to understand the concept of something, but ultimately the idea is not to replicate the real world, it's to define the digital world in a way that people that live in the real world will be able to understand it.
Okay, nice.
I just wanted to add something to
Yeah.
For my corporate client, I have like an image for them to help them to understand what we can do with the land on the Sandbox. I compare it to, I don't know if you know OVH, okay, right? To a hosting service. I mean, it's the place where you can host your experience, and then they understand super easily what they can do with this land. Without the land, you don't have a place to put your experience. So this is just what I wanted to add on what he said.
Perfect. So basically, we are reinventing a new economy thanks to the metaverse, because we do like B2B services, but also B2C services. So we sell to consumer and we sell to corporate. So I have a question for you, Cedric. You create universe in the metaverse for the corporate world, but today we are in a new experience and they are early adopters. Do you have some feedbacks about some projects on the metaverse? Do you know if we can onboard easily today the users, or is it complicated?
So I can talk about some experiences that we had. Maybe at the beginning of the adventure of the Sandbox adventure creation, we start to work with super big brands like AXA or Crédit Agricole. And what is crazy, that marketing innovation guys that we have in contact, they are so about, they were looking about the trends, you know, what is trendy actually. We go to Vivatech, we need something crazy or this or this. Okay, let's go, we're gonna do something. But at the beginning when we start, there is no land where you can publish. I mean, it was not possible to publish on the land. So it means that we sold a lot of games and experience without being able to give a link to play. That's crazy, no? And now that, you know, the trend is more on IA, you know, we can publish. We have even some brands that now can publish that even forget their game because it's not the trend anymore, actually. But for me, metaverse, augmented reality, NFTs, crypto, all gaming, it's all in the same package in reality. So we keep the track, we keep constructing it. We have brands from, I'm talking about French companies mainly, because all the Asian company, we work with Japan, we work with the US, they are still in the metaverse. They still believe in the metaverse, even if it's not the actual trend. It's still in the game. They are still in the game.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Remy. So I think that the B2B services are obvious, but maybe it's more complicated to understand why someone would like to buy a land in the Sandbox. And I'm just saying that because I have some friends that are real estate agents, and back to the last crypto bull run, there were a lot of noise around NFTs and land in the metaverse, and it was absolutely insane. The value of a land in a metaverse was absolutely insane. Can you please tell us how to explain the volatility, and is the value in a metaverse really valuable with the time? Is it going to grow, or is it sometimes just FOMO and speculation?
Okay, very interesting. I mean, I think the overall the Web3 market is impossible to explain. No, but for real. I mean, and we see it these days with the current pump. I mean, there's only very few things that we can explain. What happened at the time? So it's pretty fun because I joined in October 2021, and the Facebook renaming Meta was like end of October, and on November 3rd, we had the fundraising announcement where we raised $100 million. And in less than a month, actually, I saw SAN token went from 0.4, 0.7 to $8 in less than a month. And Lens went up to 10 ETH or something like that. Very a bit later, but like very close to the same timeline. Overall, what happened is that Facebook announcement actually impacted a lot our business, and I would say that it wasn't that helpful because, of course, it brought a lot of hype over the Sandbox, but we weren't ready. We're a small company of 30 people. The game wasn't that good. So, you know, like putting such a spotlight in a company that is not ready for it can change a lot of things. And basically we were also pre-product. So the product wasn't launched, as Cedric said. You could build games, but you couldn't publish them. There was a lot of restrictions. So I would say that what happened back 2 years back was an anomaly. And the current market doesn't value products, it values hype. I mean, that's my personal perspective, but I think it values hype more than actually delivery. So it's very hard to assess the price of a land. Right now it's around $600. And sorry, I'm taking a bit of time for this question because I think it's very important. But basically what I saw over the year is that land price fluctuated around between $500 and $700 over the year, whatever the price of ETH, which is very interesting because standard NFTs don't fluctuate on a dollar value, but usually fluctuate around an ETH value. And for the lands, over the full year, it was in between this range. And with the pump of ETH recently, we went to 0.16 ETH, which is the lowest this year. But we actually, it's also the moment of the year that we have the most features and the major developments. So it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right that we put so many efforts and that price are not impacted. And what I'm gonna tell you is, I think it's pretty easy as an investor to explain this. Basically right now, investors are ready to put $600 in the land because they feel that they won't be able to generate more. It's simple mathematics. You invest 600 to get an average of this. But tomorrow, if we have more users, better features, better monetization tools, and if with one land you're able to generate 20 to 50K, I can guarantee that the price of a land will be much higher. It's just about balancing. You have to make an investment, so how much do you expect to get? But as Cedric and Mo said, lands are just a location on the map. It's coordinate. It's nothing else. Then it's the right to publish at a certain area on the map. So how people will actually make the best usage of this location.
Okay, that's very clear. Mo, do you want to react to this question about the crypto market and the NFTs in the metaverse?
The initial question was, why is the market acting or behaving in such way? I think, the price of something is a factor of what people are willing to pay for it. I think what the Internet of Value, crypto, does is an extension of what we did with the Internet of Information. Back then, before social media, only very few people could speak and have their voices heard. These were the people that could go on radio shows or on TV stations or have the investment to be able to set up their own websites and write a blog or be a journalist. And then what you did with the Internet of Information is that everyone has a voice and everyone can speak and everyone can create a community and everyone can build a brand. Ultimately what happens is with that level of accessibility, anyone can talk about anything. Anyone can make anything a trend. You were talking about cat videos getting billions of views and generating more ad revenue than maybe a show that was, that took 6 months to build and hundreds of thousands of dollars to create. So the value of anything in the Internet of Information is what someone is willing to spend time watching. So when you do the extension of that in the Internet of Value, anyone can buy anything and anyone can invest in anything, and at the other side, anyone can create any digital assets or any cryptocurrency. And it's the market that decides. Sometimes meme coins are 100 times more valuable than layer 1 blockchains. Why? Because there's a community around it, and there is a movement also that is a little bit anchored in financial nihilism, where why the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. Why would Dogecoin have a $20 billion market cap? Well, it sends a message versus other currencies that have been probably managed in a way that pushed these people to go towards Dogecoin. So getting back to the point around metaverse lands, I think, you know, investment in the space is anchored in narratives. And in 2021, it was the NFT and the metaverse narrative, mainly thanks to Meta's announcement, and it will get back. You know, you have Apple with the Vision Pro. The metaverse is a concept that has started in the 90s, probably even in the 80s, and is now becoming a bit more important because of social media. People value their digital identities more than they value their physical identities. This is the metaverse. You'd ask someone, would you rather, you know, keep your TikTok account or you know, your car? I think some people would say, I would rather keep my TikTok account. It makes me more money than my car. So this is part of the metaverse. But again, to come back to the main question around valuation, the meta trend today is not the metaverse and lands within the space, but it doesn't mean that it won't get back. The narrative today is around AI. It's around meme coins for some reason, but that is very much anchored in macroeconomics and geopolitics. Why are people investing in meme coins? It's a very interesting question that we should riff on. I think not today, but generally as a society, because of how currencies are managed around the world. Like, why would you buy a meme coin if your purchase power wasn't going to the dumps, right? So yeah, valuation is definitely about what people are willing to pay for and what the dynamics and the network effects lead people towards. And it's definitely an interesting market. I think having that level of freedom is amazing. It's like on social media, you can create whatever you want. In cryptocurrencies, you can buy whatever you want. Why the hell not?
Okay, thank you. Do you want to react before because I have a question for you just after you answer that.
Just a small thing. If you remember, maybe 10 years ago, Bitcoin was worth something like $1,000. And now it's roughly 6,000, 65,000. So in 10 years, the increase of value was just crazy. And I just want to tell you a small story. I try to do fast, but I remember my old uncle that now is not in this world anymore. He was living in Arizona, and he get rich, very rich in Arizona. And a few years ago, I had the luck to ask him, Jojo, why you came here in this crazy Phoenix city? He say, I was looking for a place where they need me to construct something. And so I bought some land and I put some houses and sell and resell. And this is how I get rich. And since I start in the Sandbox, I have this story in mind, really. It's not just a bullshit of storytelling. It's real thing. It means that I feel on the Sandbox, even if it was super good for me last year, Sandbox, more than this year. But it's only the beginning of 2024. But I feel really the same things about Bitcoin and about the JoJo stories in Arizona, really, and the Sandbox value. So I think, I am not paid by Sebastian or Sandbox, but I think it's a good moment to invest in Sandbox, really.
Thank you for this nice story. So I have a question because I saw in the Sandbox universe you showed us just before that there was monuments, and I would like to know if there's a copyright on monuments, if the monuments are the property of the city town, or if someone, random people, can buy famous monuments on the metaverse. And you can ask, respond to this question, Remy, too. Because I don't know.
I could
I,
disagree.
I have literally no idea.
Okay.
No, to be honest, like I have no idea. I know that Eiffel Tower is copyrighted when it's lighted, but
In the metaverse.
I have no clue about the rest.
Yeah, but I can answer. It's my part. It's my crazy things. So first, you have to know that I try to be. I try to find the word in English. I try to be innovative and surprising, and sometimes I do crazy things about the right things. Why? Because I want first the Arc of Triomphe. I did my research. It's a reproduction, right? It's not the Arc de Triomphe first. It's an art reproduction. It's my vision. It's roughly something super close, but it's in voxels, so it's an interpretation, right? And doing this, I wanted two things. I wanted to show the competitor studio in Asia who start to create this, that it's my monument first. Because it's the place where I bring my clients, first things. Second things, I wanted to bring attention for the French, not government, but the French mayor city, that we are super creative and we can create crazy things here. I contacted what we call RMN, Réunion des Musées Nationaux. It's a way to make a prospection for clients, but you don't. There is things you can do and other things you cannot do. By example, if you go on the Cinema Box, that is a reproduction of the cinema of my father when he was kids. It looks like the Rex in Paris. We start to recreate something like Avatars, the movie, Rocky, all the actors in voxels. I don't know if you know that, Remy, but the publisher team stopped the publication and banned my land because it's not. There is no problem with that because they said, okay, no, this is protected. So they have like editorial checking in the moderation in the Sandbox. About Love in Paris, we created a reproduction of the Moulin Rouge. They had already, if you look in the internet, or they had already some problems, juridical, legal problems with some people who sell toys or things, but they lost all the things because the Moulin Rouge is considered today not as a brand but as a place in Paris. So you can but it means that each time you want to reproduce something, you have to do your own research and to see you can go or not. Is it legal to do it or not? In Love in Paris, we have the reproduction of famous artists, French artists, like Dalida or Jean Gabin, or people like that. It's voxel reproduction. It means that we are super good, right? But it's voxels. It means that it's not a high definition reproduction. So to say it's no one say nothing about that. But you have to do your own research and your legal research. Because, by example, we wanted to create games on Sherlock Holmes, and there is actually it's free Sherlock Holmes, but not in video games industry, because there is a company in Ukraine, it's Frog a studio, right? they own the brands for video games. So I contact them and say, okay, you have to pay a license, small fees, but you have to pay for that. You go, you don't go. But if you have a business behind, you have to always see the legal consequences of your choice. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I have a last one question for the three of you. And this question is about the evolution of the metaverse and of the sandbox. We mentioned AI, and I would like to know, because we are at the beginning of something very big with the metaverse, with the blockchain, with the crypto, with Web3, etc. And we talk a lot about AI these days. And I would like to know how AI can help users to create universe in the metaverse and in the sandbox, for example.
It's I think people will have very different opinions on this topic. And we have an AI division in the Sandbox, which is pretty small. We started analyzing how we could do voxel creation. So again, Sandbox, it's about a game, but also we bring the tools to create those games. So we have VoxEdit, free tools, yeah. VoxEdit and Game Maker. So on VoxEdit, you create your assets, and then you put them in motion on the Game Maker to create the logic and the narrative and placing your assets at the right place and creating the quests and whatever. So we started checking how we could automatize or how we could ease the process of creation on VoxEdit. So when you have a dog, you import a picture of a dog and it creates a dog in 3D in voxel art. And internally we had people saying, wow, that's insane. And others who were like, that's terrible because it kills creativity. I think everyone can have its own opinion about this topic. For me, I think it's a great optimization tool if you want to create simple stuff that you want to deliver fast and that you need things like this. But I still think that if you don't start from a model coming from your mind, it will still be less good. It's not going to be bad. It's just going to be less good than if a real talented artist made it themselves. So that's what we did. We're also exploring on sound design, because how could we allow creators to create their own musics and feature their own sounds in the metaverse as well. Because we had to check copyrights as well. When someone uses a song in their experience or want to use their song, they have the right to use it. It's exactly as Cedric shared earlier. So all those questions can be asked with AI. Right now, it's not, to be honest, the path we took. And we are, of course, the creation process keeps being a bit manual and requires efforts, because we haven't found very good tools that will reach this objective. Once we have, yes, probably we'll implement quick things, integrations and stuff, but right now that's not the current state.
Yeah, I mean, in a more general sense, I think you mentioned it earlier, the metaverse is about the collision of different technologies and worlds, whether it be, you know, the internet obviously is at the base layer of this, but then you layer on top of it social media, you have gaming, AI, augmented reality, virtual reality, chips in your brain, all of this is the metaverse, right? The next step is just you being plugged in the matrix, right? I mean, we're probably in a simulation, by the way, like who knows? No one knows how we ended up here. It's an interesting, like there are a lot of people that when they dive down that road of the future of the metaverse, they're you know, end up in a thesis that this might be simulation, but that might be a topic for another day. When it comes to the short term of how AI will impact this, I think we've moved from the age of laborers. We used to build things with our hands, and then we started creating things using computers, and now we're going to start creating things by narrating. So laborers, creators, and now narrators. And AI is going to be a tool that will unleash the creativity of humans that don't necessarily have the creative skills to use Illustrator or to build games or to use Unreal Engine. You will just be able to talk, and an AI will be able to build what you have imagined in your brain. But this is just the first piece of it. Maybe today it's not as good, but it's going to get good pretty fast. Because if you look at how the fusion models were a year ago in terms of like the image creation, the video creation, and how the fusion models are today, the text to video. I don't know if any of you tried playing around with Sora, OpenAI. It's pretty incredible what will happen in 2-3 years. So with gaming, I think it's going to be about narrating and imagining a game. I think every one of us will become a game creator if you wish. It's like every one of us became a photographer when you started having a phone application in your phone. And very quickly it's going to transition from that to just games becoming created by AI, even without much narration. You're probably going to have an AI game developer, probably going to have an AI movie director. Like maybe an Oscar one day will be won by an AI, who knows? And I think probably regulation will come and will try to put a stop at this, because a lot of, obviously ethics, and then you have a lot of like industries that are affected by this. A lot of jobs that can be lost, maybe jobs will be created elsewhere. But AI is on an exponential curve of development, and gaming is a very interesting place where humans can interact with AI in order to do things that they couldn't do before.
How do you explore that at Ledger? Do you?
AI at Ledger? Yeah, I mean, AI at Ledger is being explored on a variety of different fronts. Most of it is related to customer support. Like Ledger has hundreds of thousands of tickets being created, every year, and the ability for a company to be able to forecast the number of employees it needs in order to be able to fulfill the need of responding to customer support tickets, for instance, is very hard because the market is fluctuating. Yet on an FTX crisis, you don't get the same number of customer support tickets than summer of this year, right? And the idea is to enable support agents to be able to become a lot more efficient, and AI to be able to deflect or redirect users at a very early stage of the journey and enable them to find a solution before they actually have to interact with a human. So these are things that we're not the ones that are inventing this at Ledger. You guys should check out what Klarna did. The Klarna CEO published a pretty interesting paper. It's not even a paper, I think it's just a Twitter thread on how they've approached it. And I think every single company will start incorporating AI into customer support, into content creation, and pretty quickly you're going to have co-pilots. Now co-pilots are considered to be like the co-pilots of developers, but every one of us will probably have an assistant that will help us do the work. Like, I mean, who doesn't use ChatGPT on a daily basis here? Students, probably you guys do it all the time. I do it. It reads my emails, not all of my emails, but some of my spelling mistakes and grammatical sort of, if I'm researching the topic, it's the same thing. So I think AI is already incorporated into how we work every day, but it's just going to keep taking a bigger space. And obviously, I'm talking about like the bright side of things. There are risks associated with it, but I think how technology's evolved in the past is we keep moving forward and we break things till we see the downside of certain things and then start thinking about these. So yeah.
Okay, Cedric.
I wanted to add something about how we use AI to create worlds at Metaverse Studio. We have a nice workflow. It's true that we don't create voxel models with AI. We don't like this. We didn't find nice tools. You can have what we call terraforming tools that can generate nice land, but we don't use it. We use a lot of Midjourney to create amazing storyboard and to illustrate concept for the client before to construct it in voxels. So this is one of the main use for that. We use a lot of these images for the backgrounds of the games. It means that, by example, this room is pretty empty. We have a lot of blue there, but with my AI things, I can put a lot of nice painting around or reproduction. And this is what we do with AI, and we win a lot of time, because at the end of the day, what brings the immersive, the feeling of being somewhere, it's all these small details, even in voxels. And if you have the luck to play on horror games, you will see all these little details and say, oh, wow, they did that. And you see that it's a huge amount of work. We use a lot of, there is another AI tool that is Murph. I give this as a present, these names. We can generate more than 100 voices and languages. So it means that when we create a trailer for a game in Sandbox, by example, we can have an amazing voice in English, in Spanish, in Portuguese, and this is what we do to create voices for the games. And we with ChatGPT, we can have some ideas of mechanics or enigma or puzzles that we use to put in the games. So we already have we win time with that.
Nice. So I think that we can ask the audience if someone has a question for you.
Well, thank you very much. It was very interesting. A few questions, actually. Same question as you just asked. How AI is going to impact Sandbox, and how are you going to, how it's going to change? Have you already, decided how it's going to impact Sandbox?
That's a bit what I said earlier. We tested things. We keep testing. Even we invested in some companies as well, but so far we haven't found the right lever, where to put creativity and AI. That's about ethics. I think it's the only reason. For example, at some point we were like, okay, maybe we cannot give that tool to everyone, because then we won't be able to separate talented artists versus a newbie who just entered the space and wrote a prompt and created an asset. What makes the difference between the two? So we're like, okay, maybe we should grant licenses to our partner studios only. But in the end, we got a bit lost on this topic. So I think it's all about challenges. Right now, for me, it's not our core challenge, so it's not a priority. That's the simple reason. Of course, it will probably impact our businesses in the next years, but I think it's about how artists and creators will adapt, like Cedric, to use their own tools. If you guys need a storytelling support or I don't know, references for your visuals, you want to create a dragon, imagine. You want to have pictures of a fire dragon, of an ice dragon, and in voxels. how can you get inspired? You just ask Midjourney, ChatGPT, or whoever, and you will get a shit ton of references. So for me, that's a bit. Each of the stakeholders from the community who want to see their own benefit. But at our level, it's gonna happen at some point. But until we haven't found the perfect solution.
So you talked about like restrictive laws that are in place for which will restrict you when you want to like build games and also construct on the AI system or on the metaverse. So how restrictive will you say are the laws, and won't it be hard to like construct like if the laws are too restrictive in that sense? How are you guys able to like move around the laws and are able to construct or are able to do something on the metaverse in that sense?
I mean, there aren't any laws at the moment that disable you from using AI to build things on the internet. I think the only movement that we've seen was within the movie industry in Hollywood, where they did a strike, and that was a pretty big movement because you started having studios and screen writers using AI in their process, and it's definitely endangers certain jobs. But my personal opinion about this is that if you regulate too early, you kill innovation. I think you need to let people explore what they can do with the technology, and if it moves too far, you can start regulating. I think, my perspective on how AI will be used in order to create things on the internet, whether it be to create games or to create content, is actually pretty positive. It liberates the creator from their lack of technical expertise, and it enables you as a person to be completely comfortable articulating what you have in mind and having someone bring it to life. The skill isn't anymore about what you can do with your hands on a keyboard, it's about what you can imagine. So the person with the best imagination is the best creator, which to me is pretty fair. I mean, if you think about it, if you compare it from the previous transition, so we're transitioning from creator to narrator, but we already transitioned from builder to creator, right? So within that previous transition, you probably had a painter that was complaining about a photographer being able to use a tool, or someone on an illustrator being able to paint something with a lot less technical and artistic capabilities, right? But painters didn't go on the street and manifest against Illustrator. However, AI has a much bigger impact than Illustrator and Photoshop, right? They have a lot of things related to how public opinion is being formed on the internet, how bots can, shape public opinion and get people to believe things that aren't necessarily true. You have a lot of risks associated with the fact that the cost of creating something is zero. So when the cost of creating something is zero, you can create a lot of things for not a lot of value, and in terms of like the barrier of being to create something, which ultimately makes it dangerous for certain industries and for politics and over a lot of different topics. But ultimately, I think this is where the intersection, and I'll finish on this point, where the intersection of AI and cryptography is really interesting, because AI is about content abundance, and blockchain and cryptocurrencies and cryptography is about authenticity and scarcity. So the example of like creating something on social media, there could be, what's your name? Rafael. So there could be 10 Rafaels on Twitter posting the exact same thing. How would I know which Rafael is the real one? If there are 10 AIs that are continuously like putting out tweets. Well, if you layer on top of that blockchain and you're using your ledger in order to sign into your account or to sign a tweet, then you're using blockchain as a way to authenticate content creation. And I think in the world where everything will become abundant, we'll need to know who is a human, who is the creator that actually used AI and can prove that they're a person behind it, versus the person that just used the tools on the sandbox. It's like, you know, playing a vinyl versus playing a digital file. There will be value for people that will still use things by their hands because there's artistic value to that, versus something that was created by an AI without any human interaction. You're gonna have to make those differentiations in the digital world. Sorry, it was a pretty long answer, but the question wasn't easy to approach either.
So in that sense, it's easy to like put a patent on the thing you produce on the metaverse or using AI. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean the patents are used for the technology, the AI. You know, it's probably going to be copyright about something that you create, but this is, I think, the world of regulation and AI. Like the questions that you're asking are pretty legitimate, but I guess there are some very smart people around the world that are trying to figure this out, and they haven't figured it out yet. And these conversations are very hard to have because technology moves so fast. So the moment it takes for regulators to be able to catch up with the technology, it's already too late. They're still 10 steps ahead, and it's moving even faster than it used to be. I don't know if you guys remember when Zuckerberg was first auditioned by some senators, and the questions that they were asking him, they were 10 years behind. Like, they didn't even understand what social media was. So it's super hard to regulate this because, I mean, it's super hard to regulate it well. You can regulate it pretty badly and kill innovation, which is going to be very hard because for you to do that, like if you regulate it and you're super strict in Europe and China's free to do whatever it wants and the US is free to do whatever it wants, well, every single entrepreneur here in Paris will just move to San Francisco. And the other way around, it's the same thing. So there will need to be, you know, a world consensus on how we're going to be regulating AI and how we're going to be using all of these technologies all together. So.
Last one question.
I have a question concerning the use of Sandbox, the metaverse, the experience within this game to engage your community and to use it as a marketing tool to generate more engagement of your community and at the end of the day some sales. How do you use the Sandbox game in that perspective? Do you have some example? How do you see it in the future? What are the wow effect?
Yeah. So you have to understand first that, as Remy said, Sandbox is still in construction, right? So we have amazing tools of creation that are ready. Lens, you can publish on the Lens. The traffic is still low compared to TikTok or Instagram or this kind of platform, right? But what we saw, and Remy can confirm, is what we call, what I call the friction. That is super important in terms of marketing and for the client. When you go on a TikTok account, you have a friction of maybe 5 seconds with the content. When you go on a Sandbox experience, by example, you go on the Gucci experience, to achieve the game, and we have the statistic, you stay in the world of Gucci like between 20 to 30 minutes. That is just nothing compared to what exists in the social media, because when you go on social media, you are like zapping, you know, you go, you look, bam, 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 bam. But when you are in a metaverse experience, you spend more times and more quality times. So for the brands, it's the best place to engage and to captivate the audience. So what I see in the future, I see more traffic on the Sandbox, that's it. And we have a new tool that is super new. It's the statistics. We see actually how much players we have. So it means that when you have activation action like putting some videos or posting your trailer on social media, you can see if there is consequences on the frequentation of your land. And you think it's better? You see better I answer your question? Yeah, you want to add something?
I actually wanted to pass the mic to you, Mo, because usually I take Ledger's experience as an example, so...
Well, I'm very proud of that. No, I mean, Ledger's mission is really to educate people about self-custody and security, right? And we were talking about the 360 approach, the multiple touch points. So we've been doing that for, a few years now. Creating content on YouTube, writing articles, hosting a podcast, social media, education, and so on and so forth. The thing is not to replicate this in the metaverse. Like, no one wants to go in the metaverse to read an article or watch a video. You want to live a different type of experience. And the environment in the sandbox enables you to be able to deliver your message in a variety of different ways that you can't do on social media, because social media is interactive, but the interaction on social media is very limited by the interface that you're, the interface of the product itself. So I'll give you kind of an example of what we did with the sandbox for the purpose of education. With Ledger, the idea was to make sure that people in the space know how to use the product and know how to detect a scam, avoid hacks, and ultimately be safe in the space. We have Ledger Academy. So Ledger Academy is our educational hub. It's an education platform that has about 1.4 million users, thousands of content pieces, and so on. So we worked with a gaming studio of a friend of mine called Max. It's called Swipe Back, and we took the content of the academy that we thought was the most essential content, like the 101 Academy, how to use the product, how to avoid hacks and scams, and then we took that content and we transformed it into a story, where you would be meeting different characters. We call them NPCs, non-playable characters on the map. And every single mission on the map would teach you something about self-custody and security. And you would be able to interact with characters. They would give you missions. Each mission would have specific mechanics, collecting different pieces of information or fighting certain scams, fighting certain hacks, and you would be learning and playing at the same time. And then I think to us what was very interesting is that we could incentivize people to do this with digital assets. So the concept of the map was School of Blog. The idea was to collect different pieces of the Ledger armor after every mission within the map. And then when you finished all missions, you graduated from the School of Blog with the full Ledger armor, which was an NFT that was airdropped into your wallet. So it's kind of a mixture of education, gaming as a vehicle for message delivery, brand building, because people will leave with an emotion, with a memory that they stored with that interaction. And then ultimately you're gifting people an NFT that actually has utility. Because the interesting thing is that you could say, hey, for all the users that played the sandbox experience, which were about 300,000, out of 300,000 users, 100,000 of them actually finished it, which is pretty good. Even if it's less than the exposure that you have on TikTok, the engagement that you get out of an experience like that is much higher, because to your point, they're spending like 20, 30 minutes actually actively playing the game. And then the last piece that's interesting is, so the Web3 CRM component. You can detect the wallets on the blockchain that have that NFT in it, and then you can engage with them through a variety of different things. You can create token-gated products, services. You can invite them to an event. You can airdrop them stuff. So it's basically a cohort segment on the blockchain that has been educated about a certain topic, and you know that that segment has been educated about this topic because that NFT represents a proof of knowledge, a proof of participation in that experience that you've built. So in terms of marketing, it's super interesting as an additional channel.
So I think, and very briefly, because so then we can jump to the last question. I think this illustrates perfectly when earlier I talked about how you can optimize platforms. I think in this case they had a messaging which was education, and they went to a platform allowing gamification. So how to use gamification for your purpose. How could you create a cool and fun experience, adding also a bit of art as well, because the world of School of Blocks is pretty nice. So also the buildings and the monsters they created that you had to fight had a specific design. So you know, it's not just about sharing content. Gucci, for example, they didn't want to sell clothes in the metaverse. I mean, which could seem pretty surprising at the same time, because in real life they sell clothing, and in their experience they wanted storytelling. They wanted to dive into what is the brand, and so the whole experience is about what is Gucci. It's not about selling you a bag or whatever. So I think each and every brand has an objective, but then you use gamification to reach that point. And then the degree of excellence, of the deliverability will depend a lot on the complexity of your experience, of how you do marketing. I also insist on something like Sandbox is not the key driver of the audience. At some point, each brand needs to be responsible for the audience. Like, you don't call Apple saying, "Hey, bro, I don't have any user on my app." No, but at some point, it needs to become something like that. We are not responsible for everything. Of course, we are responsible for the tools we provide. Of course, we are responsible for improving everything: servers, latency, fighting style, whatever. But if there's no marketing campaign on your side that you're not able to attract your community, if you don't want to do acquisition, if you don't want to do paid ads or whatever, I don't know. But it's like launching a game on Steam. You launch a new game on Steam, if you don't have any user, you won't call Steam. so that's a bit how we approach success as well in the Sandbox.
Yeah, so the last question, I had a question about, so the Cure Society has its own land in the Sandbox game, and I wanted to know what are the steps to begin to monetize, or even like to build something, you know, like, question for all of you.
Why did you purchase that land?
Like the
Why?
Why?
Why did you purchase it?
At the beginning, it was not, the Curious Society was not born, so it was like for speculation, honestly. I've bought like for two Ethereum, 2 ETH, because I thought it was like for speculation.
Yeah.
But now I think it can be, it can attract like the community of Q Society maybe. So
either. So first, I would recommend that you build it yourself with the association.
yeah,
Because I think it's gonna be a bit expensive if you have to outsource. Then I would say, for what? For who? Is it an internal tool to promote your association? Is it an internal tool to hang out? I don't know, just saying random stuff. Is it just a game because you love gaming? And as Mo said, you want to reward people with NFTs at the end of the experience.
Yeah.
It can be a skill challenge, it can be a racing game, it can be a parkour game, it can be an RPG adventure style, whatever. Or it can just be museum. If that's simple and you don't have any idea but have cool art piece, let's make it a museum. It depends on what are your objectives. So it's hard to answer. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if you want to go, guys. But personally, it's a bit hard to answer right now. I don't have enough clues, and I think you need to think about it all together.
It's a good question, but it's a little bit like if you say, okay, how I make money, in real life. There is thousands of ways to make money. Before building, you have to imagine like a small business model of your land, and it can be by example. You can build. It's an example. It's an idea. I don't know what it worth it, but I think in the school there is many association like you, right? You can be the one who sell small offices of all the association in the land, and it will be. I think you will be one of the first school in Paris to have an office of the association in the Sandbox. And you can rent this small office by year. So you cut the land in maybe 10 office, and you...
It's the smallest land.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I show you, it's
Yeah,
big.
okay. Yeah.
I do 10 office in your...
Okay.
in one. So, and you can sell to each association, like you say, okay, it's 300 euros a year, and you have your money back.
Yes, okay.
It's an example, but you
This is if you want to monetize. If
Okay.
you just want to do it for fun, you do it for free. But
Do you think that Sandbox will be in PlayStation or Xbox in the expected years? No.
one day,
Yeah, one day.
I hope.
Okay.
Like, I mean,
it will help, I think.
yes, of course, but I mean, first let's get a good game, and then we'll try to go mobile, console, whatever. But and I
Sorry.
I said it earlier when we were not in during the chit chat before the conference. Right now, it's not the platform the issue; it's the regulators and the companies behind. When we try to publish on the App Store, there's so many constraints linked to cryptocurrency management and transactions. So it's not just about how we use our current Unity engine and push it elsewhere. It's about how we'll operate transaction, how Apple will actually find their benefits as well in this operation. And right now we haven't had the answer.
You should become a hardware company. Like that's what Facebook did, right? Like the only way to free themselves from Apple was to get the Oculus and build their own vertical.
Like for example, maybe you can, I don't know, like create the Sandbox game of the Solana telephone as made be decentralized.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we could, but I mean, it's about finding your challenges.
Yeah.
So right now we prefer. I mean, I'm gonna take a very good example. I think that never thought about this. League of Legends. I'm a very big gamer. If you take League of Legends, they make $1.6 billion per year with a free game that is on desktop only. So of course now they have expanded, and now they're Riot Games, and they have several games. But for years they had only one game, which was only on PC and on desktop, and it wasn't an issue to make $1.6 billion. So I would say it's a false excuse to say that we don't have enough users, we are not driving enough revenues or whatever. It's about the tech, it's about the product. When you have a good product, people find a way. Like you install MetaMask, if the product is tremendously good, if you crave for playing it, you will do it. Whatever the cost. I mean, of course, if you have to pay too much, of course, but if it's reasonable enough, you'll do it. And for now, I think we have to reach that point of excellence.
So, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to discuss this topic with you. We learned a lot, so we know that the metaverse is a community, but it's also business, it's also lifestyle. So we have a lot to build together, and we are very early in the technology, so that's very exciting. So thanks to the Curious Society of ESCP Business School, it was a pleasure to be here with you. And so we just have to dive into the Sandbox experience now. Thank you.